Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are at the time. I would like to thank the organizing committee for allowing me to deliver this talk. Today, I'm going to talk about the artificial intelligence, a new tool for research. At the beginning, we are going to define what the meaning of artificial intelligence in medicine. Artificial intelligence means the ability of computer system to perform tasks that would usually require human levels of intelligence. And by this, we want our machine to think like human, giving them the intelligence of their own by feeding them lots of information, simulating the environment like our real world, given the fact that they can process huge information in a split of seconds. The history of artificial intelligence passed through three different stages. The birth of artificial intelligence was around 1942, and it was started by finding or inventing the machine called Enigma. This machine was invented in the Second World War. To be used to decode the messages in the war. The second was by Pascal, Dr. Pascal, who invented the digital calculator. In the mid-1950s, Alan Turing came and developed a test for machine learning. And in the mid of this, evolving the machine learning, we call it the period of booming of artificial intelligence. And that was started from 1955 up to the end of 2000, and started with the father of machine learning or artificial intelligence, John McCarthy. And it improved and developed more and more till the end of 2012, which is the mid of the revolution of artificial intelligence. We had the IBM Watson machine, or computer, supercomputer, that answer health-related questions. Recently, at the end of 2022, there much evolving of artificial intelligence in the healthcare, especially when the COVID infection came and accelerate investment in such field of science. To apply the artificial intelligence in research, you need to build your team. And the team, actually, it's not one-man show. It's composed of many other parties, composed of clinicians as well as engineers, data scientists and analysts, cardiology imaging expert, machine learning expert as well, data and infrastructure. The data considered to be very, very important in your research as a start to develop your business and clinical field. And all these parties, they are players on the field. It is not one-man show as most of the research in the field, in the clinical field and in cardiology, and as well in echocardiography. Then we are going to have scope on the components of artificial intelligence. Dr. Kagayama and his team, they found that, or they plot that the artificial intelligence falls in three categories and components, actually: machine learning, neural network, and deep learning. The machine learning is a self-teaching software algorithms that can make a prediction about data, while the neural networks is an artificial neural network that take cues for biological neural network to process large number of input. And the deep learning, which is a form of machine learning that often uses a network with many layers of computation, a deep neural network enabling algorithm to powerfully analyze the input data. Types of machine learning and deep learning. Actually, there is three types of machine learning and deep learning. The first type, we call it the supervised learning, and it falls in two categories, classification and regression. This type of learning used for prediction, and it uses input and output data set and uses a very specific data, which we call it pre-labeled data. While the unsupervised learning, it uses the clustering mechanism of machine learning. And this type of unsupervised learning is used to reveal hidden patterns in data, and it depends only on input data set and uses unlabeled data. The third type, we call it the reinforcement learning, which is actually has no clinical importance in clinical research because it requires simulating many wrong action to learn. So it's learning from trial and errors, which is not applicable in the clinical research. So artificial intelligence, neural network intelligence is considered one of the components of artificial intelligence. It is a computer system modeled on human to mimic the human brain and the neurons, human neurons. And it is interconnected groups of nodes akin to vast network of neurons in the brain. Each circle nodes in the figure represent an artificial nodes, and arrows represent connection from either output of neuron to input of others. As you can see here, there is many layers. There is a specific layer, we call it the input, and there is another layer, call it output. In between, there is the interconnection, which is, we call it the hidden layer. To start, for example, a machine learning dependent artificial intelligence based research, clinical research, you need to choose one of the machine workflow. So at the beginning, you need to identify your data and the source of the data, either the echo packs, electron medical records, or electronic health records, or whatever the type of this data. And then you need to engineer your data. So we call it featuring engineering, either by formatting your data, cleaning them, and making the normalization upper and lower levels, scaling, and using the unsupervised learning with the deep learning as well. Then you come to the what we call it algorithm selection. You need to select your algorithm to do the calculation and the research. So there is many types of algorithms like the regression, decision trees, support vector machines, neural network, and deep learning as well. So then you'll come up with what we call it model development. You develop your model, you measure your parameter, and you'll feature your selection. And if there is any errors, you might fix it and make analysis for your errors. Then you'll come up with the result, which is model evaluation and prediction of the result. So you will optimize your results and make a cross-validation, extra cross-validation, and finally the decisions. As you can see in research and real application of artificial intelligence, as you can see, the artificial application dependent on algorithms and the task of artificial intelligence used, we can use them in the application like in the plaque risk assessment, calcium scoring, and identifying the automated ejection fraction by the 3D volume and so on. Also, we can use the artificial intelligence with mainly the interconnected or artificial neural network to reach these technology in a real application in the clinical field. There are 4 main areas where artificial intelligence is being implemented in research: computer-aided detection, quantitative analysis tools, clinical decision support, and computer-aided diagnosis. We learn from research, and the conventional research depends on the statistics, But whatever we want, we'll go further by using the artificial intelligence. So what's the difference between the statistics and artificial intelligence? Actually, statistics has been the standard method for medical research for the purpose of showing the benefit of new therapies, predicting prognosis, identifying risk factors, and relieving disease mechanism. As you can see, you might plot your simple question and by hypothesis, then you analyze your data using the statisticians formulas and science, then you get your validation of your hypothesis by this result. While in artificial intelligence, you focus on prediction of unknown data, and there is no hypothesis, or it doesn't matter. Actually, there is a huge data, different feeding data, either medical images or clinical images from the electronic medical records, and you put them through analysis through machine learning formulas and deep learning formulas, then you get your results. So we learn from data, but in a different perspective way. So in statistics, we focus on interference with few input variable, and this is based on the confident intervals, p-value, and so on. While in artificial intelligence, we focus on prediction with many input variables, and we're testing on new data to validate accuracy. In applying artificial intelligence and research, we definitely faces some challenges. The most devastating challenges are regulations and acceptance of machine learning when it be applied in clinical research, because it has relation with the health and lives. So finding another obstacle, which is finding appropriate use cases and explainability and trust. Many entrepreneurs and researchers fear healthcare research using artificial intelligence. Why? Because it's highly regulated. The perception is that many regulatory regimes are just expensive way to say no to new ideas. So modern artificial intelligence is data hungry. So you need real huge data in medicine because this represents a human life at risk. So technical challenges related to accessing large data scale, expertly labeled data from healthcare system, not designed for big data analysis, and deployment of artificial and routine clinical practice will be critical. Then we'll come to the testing and overdiagnosis related to the end result of the applying the artificial intelligence and research. Then there is barriers to translate this artificial intelligence-based research to actual product or actual results. And finally, we had a problem with the liability and accountability in this kind of research. In literature review, you'll find a lot of researches that support the using the artificial intelligence. Dr. Ghali and his colleagues, they wrote a very good article. They describes the importance of systematic right ventricular assessment in cardiac resynchronization therapy. Candidate is based on the machine learning approach. And the aim of this study was to apply combination of supervised and unsupervised machine learning approaches to clinical laboratory ECG and echo data coming from CRT candidates. The one to evaluate the relative importance of each feature in the prediction of cardiac resynchronization therapy response and prognosis. Second, to identify risk of poor outcome. So the result and the conclusion of this study that showed us that machine learning can reliably identify clinical and echocardiographic feature associated with CRT responses and prognosis. The evaluation of both right ventricular size and functional parameters has pivotal importance for the risk stratification of CRT candidate and should be systematically performed in patients undergoing to have CRT therapy. Another fantastic paper written by Dr. Kent and his colleagues, which was describing the automated echocardiographic left ventricular strain measurement using deep learning and artificial intelligence. This is done in University of Oslo in Finland, Norway, sorry. And they get data, and their source of the data were the images from the hospital, and they define it as low to high quality echocardiography, and they dividing it to groups. And they use the model of training, they call it the augmentation, enabling the augmentation. And they use the deep learning to mask the region of interest. Then they measure the strain automatically by the machine learning algorithms. So they got the conclusion that deep learning assisted automated strain measurement is feasible and provides strain results within an acceptable range of intra and inter-observer variation. Deep learning can further facilitate adoption of strain tracking measurement parameters in clinical practice research and improve reproducibility. Another wonderful paper that is used the machine learning, a pilot study. This is to exploring the phenotypic spectrum of LVH in those who are hypertension and hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So this is a very sophisticated study validated at the end by cardiac MRI, and they made two groups of patients, 4 groups actually, hypertensive and their control, and number of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and those with history of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And they measure a lot of parameters by the echo, like the aortic mitral flow, septal tissue Doppler, LA strain, and LV basal spectral strain as well, and so on the HOCM patient. Then they got the data. This data, they use the machine learning input, the strain and the aortic pulse wave Doppler and the annulus, spectral annulus Doppler tissue. And they create a common output space. Then they got a result plotted on this to the going to the right with going with HOCM, which is the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and going to the left. This is scattered or information here is going with healthy, and those who are in the gray zone, they call the clinical gray zone, or those who are hypertensive. These data, when it comes with the artificial intelligence, validated by CMR for those who's having hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and found that really validated that the artificial intelligence identified the region of extreme structural and functional remodeling by machine learning phenotypes based on echo and validated with MRI, cardiac MRI. Finally, take-home message. The research suggests it is feasible to apply machine learning models to provide rapid, highly accurate, and consistent assessment of echocardiogram comparable to clinician. Artificial intelligence is coming and progressively do part of the job or spend the workflow. Machine learning to be used as a tool, you need to define your data and you define your objectives. You need to study them and study the problems that you are going to solve. Then you need to define and analyze your strategy and choose the most beneficial machine learning workflow. For machine learning to interpret clinical data, you need to follow the clinical decision pathways. Thank you.